India's plastic-free events pivot, how urban climate action is becoming a proving ground for. The old approach just got more expensive. The practical edge now comes from changing process, timing, and tooling together. We will map trigger, incentive shift, and downstream impact before the close. Sounds simple. But what organizers discovered was that replacing every single plastic touchpoint, water bottles, registration materials, food packaging, signage, participant bibs, trash bags, refreshment containers, forced them into a stress test of India's nascent circular economy infrastructure. And it revealed something critical: the system isn't ready yet. India mandated plastic elimination across 700+ urban local bodies in July 2022. That's populations exceeding 100 million people. But here's the problem: enforcement remains patchy because the actual substitution infrastructure doesn't exist. There's no consistent supply chain for alternatives. There's no reliable waste collection and processing. The infrastructure that would make plastic elimination work is still being built in real time, and mass events are forcing the issue. Let's break down what Bengaluru's organizers actually had to solve. There are 3 distinct layers to this problem, and each one reveals a different gap in India's emerging circular economy. Layer 1: Material substitution. Organizers almost certainly used biodegradable bagasse, that's sugarcane waste, for plates. Paper-based water cups. Cloth bibs. Bamboo signage. The Indian biodegradable packaging market was valued at $8.2 billion in 2025 and is projected to reach $18 billion by 2030. That's 17% annual growth, driven almost entirely by scaled procurement needs like this event. But here's the constraint that nobody talks about: biodegradable does not mean compostable everywhere. Bagasse cups require industrial composting at 55 to 60 degrees Celsius for proper breakdown. Without downstream processing infrastructure, they're just differently shaped landfill waste. So organizers had to pre-validate an entire waste pathway before the event even happened. That's a complexity layer that doesn't exist for regular plastic. Layer 2: Collection and segregation. This is where the behavioral economics get real. Plastic-free only works if alternatives actually reach the right end-of-life pathways. Bengaluru almost certainly deployed waste pickers from informal sector organizations to segregate organic, paper, and residual waste at the source. Here's the thing: this represents a critical employment bridge for India's 1.5 to 2 million waste pickers who are being formally integrated into circular economy value chains. But several startups including Saha's Zero Waste and Kabadiwala Connect are now building digital waste tracking platforms. QR-coded waste bags. Mobile apps. An audit trail from event to processing facility. That creates both accountability and bankable ESG data that corporate sponsors can actually report on. But this infrastructure, the software, the training, the coordination, didn't exist 2 years ago. It's being built by startups that are using events as anchor customers. Layer 3: Processing infrastructure. This is the real bottleneck. Karnataka has approximately 45 operational composting facilities with combined capacity around 1,800 tons per day. A 10,000 participant event generates maybe 2 to 3 tons of organic waste. Manageable. But scale this to 50 such events monthly across India's metros, and existing infrastructure saturates immediately. The response from the private sector is instructive. Waste-to-energy ventures and decentralized composting companies raised over $340 million across India in 2025 and 2026. Events are becoming anchor customers, providing predictable, pre-segregated feedstock that improves processing economics by 30 to 40% versus mixed municipal waste. Without events generating that demand signal, those ventures wouldn't exist. Now here's where this gets strategic. Corporate event mandates are about to become market makers. SEBI is considering ESG disclosure requirements that would include Scope 3 emissions from company-organized events by Q4 2026. When that happens, plastic-free requirements will cascade from CSR initiatives into actual procurement contracts for conferences, product launches, employee engagement activities. That creates a $200 to $300 million annual market for certified sustainable event services within 18 months. Catering. Logistics. Materials. First movers in event management who build these capabilities are positioning for margin premiums of 15 to 25% over traditional operators. That's not environmental virtue signaling. That's margin expansion. But there's a contrarian angle here that matters. Supply chain concentration risk is real. India's biodegradable packaging remains 60% concentrated in Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, and Gujarat. Transportation costs at 18 to 22% to event budgets outside those regions. Decentralized manufacturing hasn't scaled because demand was episodic, until now. Events provide the demand predictability to justify distributed production. But we're 2 to 3 years away from balanced national capacity. That's a window where supply scarcity drives up costs and limits adoption. Also, not all the biodegradable alternatives are equal. Recent testing by the Bureau of Indian Standards found 30 to 40% of market products failed degradation timeline claims. Events that certify inputs create quality pressure, but they also slow planning timelines. Expect industry consolidation as unreliable suppliers get pushed out. The winners will be companies that can provide third-party certified materials at scale. Here's what changes next: municipal revenue models are about to transform. Bengaluru's municipal corporation could license zero-waste event certification to organizers, combining regulatory compliance with service provision. User fee-based waste processing at 500 Indian rupees to 800 per ton generates municipal revenues while incentivizing segregation. Ahmedabad, Pune, and Surat are watching closely. Expect 8 to 12 major cities to roll out similar certification frameworks by 2028. That's standardized protocols that reduce organizer uncertainty and unlock institutional sponsor participation. The hardest substitution isn't material. It's habit. Plastic-free events require participants to carry reusable bottles, accept paper-based alternatives, and navigate unfamiliar waste sorting. Success depends on behavioral infrastructure, clear signage, volunteer guidance, pre-event communication, social norming. Cities that master this gain replicable competitive advantage. Bengaluru's learnings, which communication formats reduced contamination, which incentive structures worked best, become valuable intellectual property that climate-focused NGOs are already documenting for open-source dissemination. For investors and operators, the opportunity is concrete. Tech platforms for waste tracking, material certification blockchains, event carbon accounting, these B2B SaaS tools are underpenetrated. The total addressable market is 15,000 plus mid to large events annually across India's top 20 cities. Customer acquisition cost is low when regulatory push creates demand. Decentralized composting franchises and biodegradable material micro-manufacturing present 20 Indian rupees to 80 lakh ticket size opportunities with 18 to 24-month payback periods. These align with both financial and social returns. The real takeaway: Bengaluru's plastic-free event isn't symbolic environmentalism. It's an infrastructure stress test that reveals India's circular economy is transitioning from policy aspiration to operational reality, but with critical gaps in processing capacity, supply chain depth, and behavioral systems. The organizations solving these logistical puzzles at event scale are building the playbooks, supplier networks, and tech platforms that will define India's $15 to $20 billion sustainable packaging transition over the next 36 months. The competitive advantage won't be in having a sustainability policy. It will be in having provable, scalable substitution infrastructure. That's the story worth watching.